This is the video I've been trying to put together for a couple of weeks. I'm going to get through it really quick, I hope, a quick, per my normal speed. How to write a query letter, what you should include in it, and what is it? So first of all, if you don't know, a query letter is what you would send to a manager, agent, producer to let them know that you have something completed, something finished, a presentable copy of a screenplay, preferably. You don't want to send things to people, as attachments. You don't want to send your script to strangers. A lot of them will say unsolicited stuff won't even be read, it'll be thrown away. So what you want to do first is identify people who either take unsolicited material or are accepting submissions, or at least don't say that they're not accepting any submissions. If they say they're not accepting any submissions, personally, I leave them alone. If they say they don't take unsolicited, I still do query sometimes, because a query is no attachments. You don't tell the whole story. You don't give a whole screenplay, but you can still query them and see if they'd be interested. So your first obstacle is finding people to query. Now, I know some people have taken the route of going mass emails, just getting a ton of emails addresses off of people online. I've seen people actually, creating these master lists. The sad thing is that by the time that master list is created, it's probably out of date. Things change so much, and you're not going to want to send a mass email. You're going to want it to be specific. You want it to be targeted to that person, to that production company or that manager. I generally do not query agents, but if you want to go that route, you can give it a shot. Personally, I aim for managers right now. In the past, I had done production companies that I had, heard of or met people through. But once you find these people, you can get their information on IMDb Pro, sometimes even Google. But the more people find these contact information and send things that they don't want to read or don't have time to read, the more that information disappears. So that's why I suggest, and why I also practice, using that information sparingly. Don't just mass send out hundreds of emails to whom it may concern and stuff like that. I don't think that that's a effective way to do it. So let's do a hypothetical situation. I've just written a story about an assassin. Just say it's a John Wick style screenplay with a female lead, and I want to send that out. So first I would find companies that make action movies. Maybe even somebody who's worked with the John Wick series or extended, universe or whatever. Somebody who's made action movies of that style in the past. And then I would get their contact information if possible. It could be a manager. It could be maybe even one of the writers of one of these movies, managers. But find these agencies and then get their contact information if possible. And then that's who you're going to address it to. I would pick one person. This is me personally again. I would pick one person, usually somebody lower on the totem pole that maybe has the time and the ability to actually read these things. Because if you send it to the president of a company, chances are they're not going to read it. It's hard enough to get anybody to read it, but it's probably not going to be the president of the company. You're going to want somebody who is an active manager of someone who makes these types of movies. So once you get that, you address it to them. Dear so-and-so. In your subject line, personally, I always avoid the words query or query letter or submission, or unless they have guidelines that tell you to do that, I don't put it. I always assume that there's going to be a catch-all rule in their email that sends all that stuff straight to the trash box, yeah, to the trash can. It may not be true, but I want to avoid any automated, especially, obstacles to getting that in front of a reader. Okay, so if you got your subject line, I might put something like, if the name of I don't know, I'm just making something up now, is Action Jane. I don't know. G.I. Jane, Action Jackson. I don't know. It's Action Jane. Action Jane. Then I put like a dash or something, and I'll put action thriller maybe, and then I put the page count. I don't know if this is necessary. I think it would help, because if they see action, whatever, action thriller, 170 pages, that takes you out right there. They're not going to read it, especially from a new writer. But if you put action thriller, 100 pages, 97 pages, something like that, in my opinion, and it seems to be working for me right now, that I just put title, genre, page count. That's what I put in my subject lines. Then the to whom it may concern, don't put the to whom it may concern, put the person's name. Try to make it official, the professional. Dear Mr. Stewart, I don't know, And then I do a brief sentence or two about the project. Hi, my name is Kenneth Collins. I've just completed this script. I believe it would be something that you would be interested in based on past projects. And then I just kind of jump right to it. And then I put the log line, the title, again with the genre, page count, and the log line. After she finds out her parents were kidnapped, a retired assassin, goes on a killing spree, blah, blah, blah. Not the best log line, but just for this sake, I would put the log line there. Then right below that, I might put a comp or a comparison so that they can get a gist of the tone and the genre. Because if it's going to be kind of tongue-in-cheek, maybe I'm doing like a nobody meets something, something. But in this case, it might be John Wick meets Taken. I don't know. But I do a comparison and try to pick successful movies, because I've had this problem myself where I have what I think are two great ideas. I put them together, but I can't find where those ideas have ever been particularly successful. And maybe that's why that movie hasn't been made yet. But try to find successful movies in that genre. Don't pick movies that people don't know, or movies that didn't make any money, box office flops. You want to pick stuff that fits and is relatable to your story, but that it's also been successful. It could also be like they did with what was it, the Steven Seagal movie where it was Die Hard on an aircraft carrier. It doesn't have to necessarily be another movie. It could be changing the setting. Alien allegedly was Jaws in space. So you get the tone, you get the gist of what's going on just from that comparison. If you can't think of that comparison, that's fine. I don't do it for every query letter, but if I can, I think it helps. So you've got your subject line, your greeting, quick really intro just to tell them what you're doing, your title, genre, page count, log line, maybe a comp. Lately, I've been sending to mostly managers looking for representation that way, or assistance that way, management. So I do put a little bit about myself below that, but I don't go overboard, and I don't exaggerate successes. I don't lie, because they're going to find out if you do. But I'll say, in the script that I just have been sending out for the most part is the one that I advanced in Austin with. I think it's probably one of the more commercial and most producible films I've ever written. Of all the things I've written, that's the one I truly believe has the best chance of being produced and being shown, on a movie theater, on a screen. So I can, with confidence, promote that and feel comfortable. I think that's another thing, not to go off on a tangent, but if you're not excited about your own idea, no one else is. So I'm just throwing that out there. But this is a story that I think is funny, it's entertaining, it's scary, it's good, and it has a pretty low budget, I would think. So anyway, so I try to put that in there. I tell a little bit about myself. I tell a little bit about the story. I say, this is a Shaun of the Dead at a wedding or whatever, which is basically what I've been touting mine as. But just say it advanced in Austin. It's got positive feedback from a few, professional readers, which it has. And then I say a little bit about myself. Since it's a manager, I'm not just promoting the one script, I'm promoting myself. And I'll say, I have advanced in these other contests, smaller contests. But I try not to focus on that, because getting quarterfinals in, the whatever, Timbuktu Film Festival isn't probably going to help you that much. But I put all the little successes I've had in there, minor ones. Just don't lie. Just don't exaggerate. Just say, here's who I am. Here's why I think it would fit your production company, your management, whatever it is. And honestly, after that, I just close it up. I say, thank you, for the valuable time and consideration. I've typed it so many times that my my autocorrect and auto spell just kind of puts it there at the bottom now, because I've done it on almost every email I've sent in the last couple months. I do add one thing at the very end. I saw this years ago on a YouTube channel about it from a gentleman who was saying how he writes query letters and how he gets pretty good percentage of success. And I wish I had looked that up or tried to find it, but it was years ago, and maybe you guys can find it. I believe it was on Film Courage. And he says at the bottom, he leaves it off with, "Can I send this to you?" Like, end it with a question. Don't just say, "Hey, thanks, bye." Say, "Thank you for your valuable time and consideration. Can I send Isle of the Dead to you? Can I send Action Jane to you?" And he believes, and maybe rightfully so, it sounds feasible, that when you end it with a sentence, and then after that you'll put, sincerely, your name, your contact information. But when you end the body of the email with a question like that, he believes, and again, I think so, that the initial response from the reader, I mean, if they don't like anything that they've just read, they're probably not going to respond either way. But if you end it like that and they were on the border, maybe it's enough for them to respond and say, yeah, send it. I'll take a look at it. I'd like to see what you did with that, that concept. And so that's what I do. Again, in summary, your subject line, I put the title, genre, page count. I leave out query letter, submission, or whatever. Again, unless they have that in their rules of how to submit. Some places do. Greeting. The greeting should have a person's name. Even if you can't find it, try really hard to find something, somebody's name on there. I think it does make a big difference. If they see a mass email come through, "For whom it may concern, here's my script, can I send it to you?" I don't think it's going to get as good a response as, "Dear, Mr. Stewart, I've finished this script. It's getting positive feedback. I think your, style, your genre, your history shows that you'd be interested in reading this." Then just go straight to, again, I put title, genre, page count, log line. And for managers, I put a little bit of something about myself. Producers, not so much. "Thank you for your valuable time and information, valuable time and consideration. Can I send screenplay X to you? Sincerely, blah, 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 my name, phone number." I generally don't put my address for two reasons, just because I don't think it's necessary, but also I don't want them necessarily knowing right away that I'm not in LA. I mean, I don't think it matters as much as it used to. But if they've got the choice between reading mine and someone who's in LA, maybe they'll take theirs. But if they see my email, my phone numbers, I mean, they can still figure it out probably by the area code. But you're hoping the log line and the email does the work for you. And you just want to keep it brief. You don't want to go off on tangents like I tend to in these videos. You just want to keep it simple, keep it targeted and concise. But ultimately, it comes back to your log line and your idea, your whole concept. I think the times I've gotten read requests, it's been because my query letter was brief, concise, but because the idea was something they truly wanted to read, and because I targeted a specific person who might want to read it. So that's all I got today. I hope that helped. If you have any other questions about query letters, maybe I can help. I also, before I ended this video, wanted to suggest That's Not the Way It Works by Bob Sines. About half of what I do in my query letters came from this. There is a section in it that is very detailed and very valuable when it comes to putting log lines and query letters together. A lot of good examples. I would recommend that book if you haven't already read it. About half of what I mean, half of it I've probably figured out just from being, in a professional setting most of my life, writing, emails and doing things on a professional stage, I guess you could say. And the other half is probably out of that book, and then maybe a little bit of smattering from YouTube videos. But here I am on YouTube now, so hopefully somebody can learn from this. Pick up that book if you want to read more. There's a lot of other good details about the reality of the writing industry, not just query letters, but that is a good part of it. All right, well, I hope you learned something, and maybe next time we'll do something with log lines. It sounds simple, but it is a skill set on its own, and I'd like to delve into that a little bit because I feel, again, not to toot my own horn, but I feel like I'm pretty good with log lines. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out next time. See ya.